took almost 20 games, but it finally feels like the Lakers coaching staff has reached a point where they actually trust Adou Thiero. Not the emergency minutes type trust, where he only sees the floor because someone gets hurt, but real rotation trust. The kind where you intentionally put a young player out there because you believe he can impact the game. And after last night's matchup against Boston, a game where frankly the Lakers got handled pretty comfortably, Adou was one of the very few bright spots. For the first time, he cracked the 20-minute mark. And even though he didn't score a single point, this was easily one of the most encouraging games he's played in a Lakers uniform. Because what makes Adou valuable has never been tied to scoring. What stood out was everything the Lakers don't consistently have on the floor: real explosiveness, active hands, elite-level defensive energy, and a level of athletic pop that jumps off the screen immediately. This is exactly the profile that made the Lakers move up not once, not twice, but 3 different times on draft night, going from the 55th pick to 45, and eventually all the way to 36, just to make sure they got him. And now, slowly, he's showing why. Not through the box score, far from it. Across his appearances so far, he scored in only 3 games and put up 0 points last night despite playing 20 minutes. But if you've actually watched him play, then you already know. The real value is in the intangibles and the defensive disruption he brings the second he steps on the court. He plays with a type of raw, reactive athleticism that the Lakers desperately need. He pressures the ball, he recovers faster than most guys at his position, and he isn't afraid of physical contact or big matchups. Even when he makes mistakes, they're mistakes made at full speed. And for a young defender, that's exactly what you want to see. So in this breakdown, we're going to dive into what exactly Adou has shown so far. We're talking everything from his per-game numbers to his defensive impact, what the advanced analytics say, and of course the eye test. Because the eye test is where his presence really jumps out. Now let's start with the basic stat line. It's not going to blow you away. He's averaging 1.4 points, 0.9 rebounds, and 0.3 steals per game while shooting 60% from the field. He hasn't attempted a 3 yet. And honestly, none of that matters for what his real role is. Where things get interesting is when you dig deeper. If you look at advanced defensive metrics, like the ones on B-Ball Index, you start to see why the Lakers were willing to climb nearly 20 draft spots to secure him. In their defensive profile breakdown, Adou grades out with an A+ in pickpocket rating, placing him in the 99th percentile of the entire NBA. That's insane for a rookie barely getting consistent minutes. His passing lane defense also ranks near the top of the league, which matches everything the eye test has been showing. In short, the numbers, the tape, the film, all of it points toward a young defender with real tools, real upside, and a skill set the Lakers currently lack on the perimeter. When you dive deeper into Adou Thiero's advanced defensive numbers, the theme stays consistent. He's already impacting the game as a defensive playmaker in ways most rookies simply don't. Beyond the elite pickpocket rating we talked about earlier, he also ranks in the 92nd percentile for passing lane defense. That's an A grade in one of the most valuable defensive categories for modern wings. And honestly, the tape backs it up. He's constantly sliding into gaps, reading ball movement early, jumping passing lanes, and creating those unexpected deflection moments that completely disrupt an opponent's rhythm. He's active, he's aggressive, and he's showing instincts you just can't teach. For a rookie with limited minutes, that's a huge sign. This is especially impressive because translating defensive playmaking from college to the NBA is often the toughest part of the process. Bigger bodies, faster reads, tighter spacing. It usually slows young wings down. But Adou is already showing that his college defensive feel wasn't a fluke. If you want the raw numbers behind it, per 36 minutes, he's averaging 1.5 steals and 3.2 deflections. That deflection number puts him right behind guys like Marcus Smart and other elite disruptors. Ranking 4th among players with similar minute thresholds is no small feat. So yes, there's a lot to like, but like any young player, it isn't all perfect. When you look at his off-ball chaser defense and ball screen navigation, you start to see areas where he still needs refinement. He grades in the 23rd percentile in off-ball chasing, a D grade, and 42nd percentile in screen navigation, C grade. In simple terms, he can get hung up on screens, and he occasionally loses his man while tracking movement off the ball. Honestly, that's normal. This is arguably the hardest defensive adjustment for any college defender stepping into the NBA. You're not fighting through college-level bodies anymore. You're navigating around 250 to 280 pound screeners whose entire job is to bury you behind them. And on top of that, modern NBA switching schemes make these metrics even more volatile. It's a tiny sample size, so you shouldn't overreact, but it's something to monitor. Now, the best way to evaluate a young defender is always the eye test. And across the last 2 games, Boston and Toronto, Adou logged about 30 combined minutes. Plenty enough to get a real feel for both the good and the bad. Let's start with the negatives. He was overly aggressive, especially when defending Jaylen Brown, and picked up 4 fouls. He wanted the matchup, but sometimes physicality crossed into impatience. But the positives? They were undeniable. On one possession shortly after checking in, he navigates a screen, stays attached to Jaylen Brown's hip, pressures him into either a turnover or a near turnover, and collapses the entire Celtics action. Whether he actually poked the ball loose or simply forced the bad dribble, the result was the same: elite defensive disruption. Moments like that are why you keep giving him minutes. One moment from the Boston game that really stuck with me came when Gabe Vincent had to help Adou up after Jaylen Brown knocked him over. Even in that sequence, Adou was inches away from forcing another turnover. And that's what makes his minutes so intriguing. Even when he's getting bumped around by all NBA wings, he's competing, he's disrupting plays, and he's making life harder for guys who are used to doing whatever they want on the floor. A few possessions later, he found himself back on Jaylen Brown. This time, Derek White tried to free Brown with a screen, but Adou navigated around it, stayed attached, and cut off Brown's lane to the rim. Brown had no choice but to pull the ball out and kick it to the perimeter, a quiet but extremely high-level defensive win. Most players on the roster couldn't do that, especially without Marcus Smart available as the primary perimeter stopper. Jaylen feasted on nearly everyone else, but Adou gave him real problems on multiple possessions. Then in the third quarter, another defensive highlight stood out. The Lakers shifted into a 2-3 zone with Adou and Jake LaRavia at the top. Toronto tried to force the issue, using a screen to shake Adou off the action. He got clipped, but recovered instantly and chased down Derek White, poking the ball free from behind. The deflection bounced toward DeAndre Ayton, who immediately kicked it to Adou, sparking a transition push the other way. Those kinds of plays, a combination of recovery speed, defensive feel, and hustle, are exactly why the coaching staff is starting to trust him. And he wasn't done. In yet another possession against Jaylen Brown, he fought through 2 different screens, reattached himself to Brown, and forced him to pick up the ball, eventually leading to a kick-out to Peyton Pritchard. That's textbook on-ball defense. That's the kind of stuff that makes you say, okay, this kid might really have something. Then came the Toronto game, which gave us even more encouraging signs. One of the best sequences came when Toronto ran a strong side pick and roll, trying to swing the ball to the weak side for an open 3. Adou read it instantly, jumped the passing lane, and stole it clean. Then he pushed the ball coast to coast, drew a foul from Grady Dick, and knocked down both free throws. Perfect defensive anticipation turning into pressure offense. A few possessions later, he found himself guarding Brandon Ingram, another long, skilled wing scorer, and once again held his ground. Ingram tried to size him up, tried to create separation, but Adou stayed square, forced Ingram to pick up his dribble, and ultimately forced a pass out of the possession. That's incredibly impressive for a rookie defender facing high-level scorers in back-to-back games. Then came the play that showcased the offensive upside people don't really talk about yet. Adou caught the ball, saw a gap, and instantly attacked the rim with full confidence. He absorbed contact, shoved Grady Dick off his line, and contorted his body for a tough up and under finish. That was the kind of athletic, controlled, fearless drive that makes you pause and say, okay, there's more here than just defense. Moments like that matter. They show he's not just a defensive specialist. He has real potential to be a two-way contributor if the development continues. And that's the bigger point here. No, he's not consistent yet. No one expects him to be. He hasn't been in the rotation long enough for that. But in the small sample we do have, he's showing the exact traits you want from a modern NBA wing: defensive versatility, fast twitch athleticism, anticipation, recovery speed, physicality, and glimpses of offensive aggression. And when you compare him to a guy like Jared Vanderbilt, who's been one of the Lakers' most valuable defenders, there's a legitimate argument to be made. Adou might actually have more offensive upside right now as a rookie, while also flashing defensive tools that could one day match or even surpass Vanderbilt's. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but the foundation is absolutely there. That's why the coaching staff is willing to give him real minutes. The potential is too loud to ignore. But those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you think. What are your takeaways from Adou so far? What have you liked? What hasn't worked yet? And what do you want to see more of from him moving forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next upload. Thanks for watching, and have a great day or night.